Welcome to another 99 Club update and additional training and looking for some opportunities. These are not stock recommendation. These are examples of the system that was taught, as well as catching up on the Make Mum a Millionaire challenge. So in the other video, you've seen that the market update is that we've got quite a bullish short-term scenario shaping up, not discounting any pullbacks along the way, but all evidence so far in the market says that this is just a quiet little holding pattern here, waiting for, I think, for the big fund managers to get back off holiday, and we should really start seeing some action. What's underpinning the market's upside is the upcoming presidential election. And it's almost disturbing, actually, how determined the Democrats are to stay in power and get Hillary in there. And everyone, especially the Federal Reserve, is working to do all they can to make that happen. Wall Street included. They're very much anti-Trump, pro-Clinton. So nobody wants to upset the apple cart coming up to the election. That's not to discount any external events. There's always those black swans that could appear here and there with Russian hacking of the emails and ISIS and who knows what. So it's never anything can happen, but the odds are right now favouring the wind in our sails to the upside. So I want some exposure to that upside and take advantage of that with some individual plays. Let me start straight away by homing in on what is in the Make Mum a Millionaire portfolio right now, where I'm at with it, where I've added to. Obviously, as you know, the first one after the gold, I doubled the money with the GLD, and then I went into the CMN with the proceeds, and I was in there around, as I explained, about 66, somewhere around here, I think, and it's been performed extremely well. And then I said that last Sunday, I said because it had crossed the line, the 50-day on higher volume, I'd add to the position. That turned out to be a wise move. And this is a stock that it goes up with the market. It responds with what the overall market is doing. So looking for more upside here, the target price I had in mind was kind of 75, 76. I don't like how the volume has kind of dropped off a little bit, but the overall, if I look at the overall market, it's been a bit like that. Volume hasn't been excited. It's summer, hoping this one hangs in there and just goes a little bit higher. Let's look at the weekly chart on this CMN one. I like the weekly chart. I mean, this is what attracted me in the first place here, is you see the boxes here in longer term, 65. 55, 45, and it's just stuck. It's glued to this rising 40-week line. So if I look at the weekly chart, this is very nice. We've got up on rising, very decent volume for the week. So what I'm hoping here is that can just keep on going and stay in with the overall rally here. I'm probably going to have a protect the profits. I don't know. I want to try and let this one ride, but if it gets below the 50-day, I'll certainly start to be worried. It's good for now, though. The main thing is to lock in profits. Okay, this is currently showing about 500 points profit. I'm not going to lose that. Common sense always prevails. Looking ahead for that one then. So I've added this week MXL. MXL is a similar story. If I look at the weekly chart, you'll see what I mean by that. Just like CMN, had an earnings scare this week and it dropped off in heavy volume. So I waited to make sure that it was going to do its thing as it has done in the past and bounce off of its 40-week line and hold position there. So I waited and it did, and it started rising again. So as long as it stays above that 40-week line, I'm going to be happy. So I added the great thing about this one is because of the Make Mum a Millionaire, I started off with 1,000. I've now only got 2,000. I've got limited margin to play with. The CMN trade moving up allowed me to do something else and try and get more points in there. And the great thing about this one is it's only $18 stock. So, there's an element here with this challenge of, look, I'm dictated to an external extent by how much money I've got to play with, which is an unrealistic scenario for a lot of people. So $18 means that I can get in there with £1 a point or whatever and only have a few £100 margin at stake. And like I say, as long as this 40-week line keeps things underpinning it and the market's moving in our favour, hopefully that will join the party. I also added a gold stock, which is looking very attractive right now. Similar thing, it's a beautiful uptrend, and that's ABX Barrick Gold, which will bring me on to gold in just a second. But the three stocks I've got, MXL and ABX, are at a kind of good entry price right now. They still haven't taken off that much yet. And CMN was obviously, I was into that one for a couple of weeks now. Hopefully those three keep pushing ahead. Now, on to gold. This one is right on the edge, and we had a bit of a scare on Friday. It's something to do with the European markets. I'm still trying to figure out. But I want to keep an eye on the uptrend here. Depends on how you draw the line. But it's kind of on the edge of its uptrend. You might even say it's kind of dropped over a little bit. It's not the end of the world, but gold might be entering one of its little corrections here. See what happens on Monday, but it did sell off on some higher volume. Again, a lot depends on where you draw the line, how you draw it. It's not an exact science. What we do know though is it's got support as I profited from the first Make My Millionaire trade around there. It's about 125.5-ish or 125, something like that. So that's not about, if it does fall out of there, which it might, then I'm looking for it to hold around there. And there's nothing wrong with that. All it's done is it did it over back here. This will make another good entry point. But I won't be entering into any more gold trades, and I can see what's going on there. And if it looks like it's just going to level off. So that's one to keep an eye on. The other things I had mentioned before was sugar. The line I had was about there. So it's important not to just look at the horizontal line, but also, as I'm demonstrating with gold, the diagonal. You don't want to join the party if the horizontal line looks good, but the diagonal is off, and that's looking fine. What is a very advantageous position is if you get in the crosshairs of the diagonal and the horizontal lines, like you see here, and as you can see, it was stepping upwards, and you've got like this intersection here. So that's a great entry point. It's almost like got everything for it pushing in the other direction. So the star of this week, as I mentioned, the one I mentioned last Sunday was WB. I mentioned it to you last Sunday when it was doing that, when it was actually around there. The reason I like that was because of this beautiful stepping points at round numbers, 25, 30, and 35, and it looked like it had just broken out to the next box. And I explained that earnings were due there the next day after the Monday. And, that's an accident, earnings. But, when a chart looks like that, you often find accidents go in your favour. But what you see here is just picture perfect of the rising step action I'm talking about, that I took advantage recently just before the seminar of HII went into HII when it was around down here, and actually got into it around there because it looked exactly the same as WB did, and there's that big earnings bump that this one had too, and again there's the cross section of the diagonal and the horizontal around there, and look what happened. I do think that regarding this HII trade, look at the RSI, it's dropped below 50% now. It's kind of leveling off a bit and threatening at the 50-day. I'm going to close this one now because that's a 2,000 point gain, and not to be sniffed at, and I don't want to lose that one. But this is how the upwards risingly steps working beautifully there. So that was WB. as I said, I mentioned that one last week about third when it was there, and it's just done beautifully. Now, as I mentioned, this stock was not available on IG Index, but I also said not to be a one-trick pony and look at options as well, which is exactly what I did. I bought options on this one, and it tripled in the value of it tripled in value almost. That's something that spread betting wouldn't have given me. What the options also gave me was a very limited downside. I could only have lost the amount I'd put in, but the upside was unlimited, and I tripled the money. And I've been over options before, but it's very simple. I always just look at the price. I'm buying at the price as close as possible to the current price, and then I don't want it to be any more than around 5 to 10% of the current price, and I'm looking ahead for an expiration of around 3 to 4 months, something like that. And that really that's all there is to it. So don't ignore options. I also want to talk about how to enter a trade. So I'll come on to some other stock updates in a second, but I do want to do a bit of training first. How to enter a trade. So we looked at this, let's say last Sunday. Okay, it's there. Here's the trade-off I'm constantly looking at. Okay, so first of all, the main thing is I see this is a great stepping stock. 20, 25. It's just picture perfect. So how do I get into this stock? Well, here's the trade-off. I could say, look, okay, it's in this bit right now, the 30 to 35 box. Now, if I get in at, say, sort of like 30 or 31, something around here, then that would be beautiful, wouldn't it? Because I'm in low, and I can set a nice tight stop loss around below it, maybe around 29, something like that. I've got very low downside, and I'm in at the really lowest possible price, as opposed to being in up here, maybe, up the top of the box here, when it could, I've got all this sort of air pocket beneath me. If it drops below there and then stops out there, I've lost a lot more points, haven't I? But the trade-off is that, okay, I'm going to set an alert for it gets to 31, but it might never get to 31, and I would miss out on this stock. As you could see, this one was it was defying gravity so much, it really didn't get much below 32, and I could have missed out on that. So you've got two choices here. I can get in low in the box, I could get in the middle of the box, or I could wait until it breaks out into a new box, which is what I did last week with that one. Okay, it's at 36. Okay, it's in a new box. I can get in at the bottom of the upper box like that. So, but here's how the best way to play it is. Let's say, using this spread bet calculator, which gives you a guide about how many points, how many pounds you should bet per point on any given stock. It's on the download with your membership, and so I can say, look, okay, let's just say, okay, on this particular stock, I would wanted to have bet £4 a point. £4 a point. Now, the thing, what not to do is go in and say, oh, okay, £4 a point, in we go, bang, right there. Okay, we're not just going to plunge in with the whole amount. We're going to do it in stages, and the first thing we do is something called a pilot buy. We take a pilot position to see how it acts. Because it's not when you've got some real skin in the game that you really start to get a feel for a stock. So I would take, for example, okay, let's add £1 a point when it's down here. Now, the other danger, of course, is if you're trying to get it when it's on its way down, how do we know that this stock isn't really just going to keep on going down, you see? So, okay, there's a pound, it's gone below 30, then 31, okay, £1 a point. Now we see what happens with our pilot buy. If it goes into profit, I can add more to the trade. So it goes up, okay, add £1, okay, and then see what happens. And if it keeps on looking like it's good, maybe we wait until it goes into the next box. Okay, add another £1 a point. If it does really well, then fantastic. If it's gone zoomed up like that, I may wait to say, okay, it might be in the $40 to $45 dollar box now. Maybe I'll just wait with my last £1 a point till it comes back to the bottom of its box. So it looks like. So it's just, there's no real right and wrong, black and white thing. It's just getting a feel for it. The main thing is, don't just go ahead and plunge in with the whole thing. Take a pilot buy and see what happens with that. If that goes into profit, then we can do some more. And if that goes into profit, we can do some more. So that way, you see, we're not exposed if you've gone all in at once and then the thing goes wrong, and we're gonna lose a lot more. I know it means that you haven't got as much in as the trade as you would have done as it keeps going up, but it's much better to be safer like that. Pilot buys, adding to your winners, taking away from the losers. That is the best way to play it, but it's also in some ways the most counterintuitive. So it's just getting a feel. The main thing is to identify a stock like this, identify the boxes correctly, the point that they're bouncing in between, and to just get in on the action and wiggle in as best as you can. As long as it's this stock, if I'm in this trade and it's bouncing in between what I've identified as a 30-35 box, I don't really care, as long as it doesn't go below that box. If it does, it's time to start getting out. So that's what happened in the week with a stock like that, and that is exactly how it should be. And to be honest, stocks like this, even what the overall market is doing, all that tends to do is just they're so strong, it just puts them to the bottom of their box. Case in point, let's look at this one, the 23rd of June, Brexit. The whole market went down. What did this stock do? It actually nudged up. It went down a little bit the next day, but all it did to that stock was take it it didn't even get to the bottom of its box at 25. It just stuck around there. So there's an example of how strong stocks like this are. So the good news of the week was CMN and WB. The bad news and somewhat mysterious news was what happened with DICOM. And this is another good lesson to come across with. I identified that this had a box of around 80 to 90, and it looked like it pushed up into the 90 to 100 box. And I was in last Sunday. I mentioned this stock, and after it had bounced up. I don't remember when I mentioned this actually, but anyway, it was in this box here, the 90 to 101. It was doing very well, and then last week, out of the blue, it was coming down a bit, which is fine. Remember what I said, as long as it's in my box, 90 to 100, all is well. But then, on Thursday, it just took this long dive downwards, and I think I was in at around 91, something like that. Down it went. So when that happens, the first thing I do is obviously I'm going to get an alert to say, okay, so all is not well with this stock. So I'm going to look at the overall market and to see what happened. So I look at the S&P 500. What happened? Well, nothing. So there's nothing wrong with the overall market. It must be something unique to this individual stock. Next thing I do is I'm going to look at Yahoo Finance to see if there's any news about this stock. What's happened? I knew there was no earnings announcement, so is there some bad news about DICOM? So I go and check on Yahoo Finance or whatever, look, enter DY, see what comes up, nothing. When a stock is going down like that, with nothing wrong with the overall market, no bad news, it's something very fishy, and it's probably some kind of manipulation. Or it could just be some freak thing where, it's got caught up in a major reshuffling of some fund managers. But this one, I was honestly expecting it. The intraday, it was going to just people just trying to play games and trigger the short so they could buy it back, and it would just go right back again and have one of those long sort of tails like you see sometimes. But no, it actually closed right on above old support. So now this is a case of, look, you have to know the rules before you break them. Okay, now breaking the rules, the rules are, look, if it closes below that, then you're supposed to stop it out. But I did not close this one out, and I wanted to see what happened on the Friday. Sure enough, it goes up on much higher volume, because I knew there was nothing wrong with this stock. It was just weird. So I broke the rules on this one, and I'm still in DY. It's still in an uptrend on the weekly chart, as you can see here, and that's another thing I'll look at. I look at the weekly chart to see everything's still intact, which I think it is, and let's look at support. Occurring across there. There's some support there at around the 85 line on the weekly. So, whilst that is frustrating, I also look at the 50% line on the RSI. It's still above that. On the weekly chart, this could be not a bad entry point actually if you were just going by that more long term. So I'm still in that one. However, I'm looking to just get out at break even, because that's just I don't like the way it behaved. And just a freak, anything can happen, but that was definitely a weirdo. So Let's look at some other ones. TLT. Still in its, I've said before, 138 is the support here, and it's been holding that nicely. But I'd want it to stay in its uptrend there. So if you're in that one now, I think it's got to keep going higher. GLD I've already looked at. Let me now. I've already said that, in terms of, what am I in right now? Well, that's got to be the Make Mama Millionaire trades. As I've already discussed, ABX, MXL, CMN. But here are some ones that I'm also on my radar, and they're not going to be a precise entry point here. We're going to have to be using techniques that I've talked about. We're going to take a pilot position, see what happens, and so on. But there's one here I rather like, and straight away that should hit you between the eyes. There's a similar pattern you saw with HII and you saw with WB. There's a IRT here, and we see the. Let's see if we can see the steps here. There's 82 and 70, 78, and there's looks like 74. So 74, 78, 82 looks like $4 boxes. 74, and then so that should be a 70, and sure enough, there's got a line there at 70. Maybe there's another one at 66, and yeah, just about there it is. So I like this one. Where do I enter? And this is an example of where we now do some analysis. Now the bottom of that box I've already said is 82. If I wait for it to come down to 82, I might miss out on this one. So, but again, if I come in round too high, then it goes down to 82, then, okay, I'm not in at the best possible price and it has a running loss. But that's the game we're playing. So I'll take a pilot buy of £1 a point. If let's assuming I was going to do £4 a point total, I don't go all in at once. So let's do it. Also, let's play around with some lines. I've done the horizontal lines, 82 and so on. Remember, we want 3 touches. So it's more like this line up here. 3 touches of the closing day horizontal peg there, remember? Don't forget the basics. Maybe that's the line. Looks like a strong one. Bounce, bounce, bounce. I've already said it's in its 82 upwards box. So I want to keep maybe drawing that line and see what happens next. See what this stock is going to do. So if I've said it's in the 84, if it's a $4 box, it'll be 84 to 86, won't it? So I want to be in this box somewhere. So I'll take a pilot buy, and see what happens next. But it looks like if anything passes and anything to go by, it's going to come down. Maybe comes down a little bit more before it goes up again. We'll see. But the regularity of that stock is obviously can't be ignored. Depending on what happens with gold, Royal Gold is looking interesting. It went down on Friday along with gold, but on quite low volume, and the box here is right on it. 80. I think this is 83, 70. 73, 77, 83. There's another one there at 68, 60. Looks like about 69. Trying to figure these out here. This is not rehearsed. This is all just looking over my shoulder as I'm doing my analysis. 72, 77. So is it $5 and making that an 82 box? Maybe something like that. It can't be too exact, 77, if that's and then there's one there at around 69, and then 63, 68, 73 is it? And then but there's definitely support there, short-term support there around 82.5 when it's right on it. If I draw that diagonal line, depends on your perspective. Has it just broken over the diagonal, or is it right on it? It might have just broken over it. If gold, the metal, makes a pullback, that could be indicative of that. So I'm inclined to see what happens on Monday with that one, but it's definitely looking interesting. It's right on the borderline. If it pulls upwards from that, I'll take that as a bullish sign for that stock to keep going high. But it could just be correcting with gold. So what happens next will be quite instructive with that one there. But I think it's right on, could be right on support. Just depends if it's broken diagonal or not. Also, I had another one here. This stock was looking steppy on Friday. Something like looks like 55. 60. It could have been going up into its 65 box now. So as you can see, this is that classic pattern that could just be starting, bounces up on high volume. We've got boxes here at 50, 55, 60. I'm going to see what happens with this next. Very, very nice action though, and I could have it might be the top of its box though. If we could settle down maybe into low 60s. And see what happens. Watch this formation a little bit more. Get it a bit more established, And I have another one here. Was that no? AMBA, and another one that's interesting is Applied Materials. Microchips, semiconductors are moving up as a group. So, and these two have an exposure to that, AMBA and AMAT. Looks like this one has got a good boxy kind of pattern forming here. Just another one I'm watching how it forms. So keep an eye on that one too. So that's all for this week. And keeping a close eye on gold to see what happens next. And but the thing is with gold is long term is that gold is in an uptrend. If it corrects, then fine, it's just correcting with an uptrend. But there's the big picture for gold. It's looking great. If it cools off for a while, then that's fine. All that means is an opportunity to add. But individual trades, I'll be let's keep a closer eye on that this week. Especially though, most of all, the Make My Millionaire trades. I do not want to lose this challenge. CMN, MXL, and the other one ABX, another gold play. Trying to turn 2,000 into 4,000. So I'll be watching that closely this week, and speak to you next time.